All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another awesome episode. We have an incredible guest today. We got Phil Dominguez out of California. He is 17 years in the fitness industry. He's the owner of Attitude and Effort Fitness, and he is a dog dad first and foremost. So, Phil, welcome to the show. I cannot wait to talk shop about training, especially the older population. So, welcome.
Brian, what is going on, man? This has been so exciting to jump on with you. We were chit-chatting before we jumped on, but man, it's always just fun to see your face. Always fun to just hang out and talk with you. You're an easy human being to talk with, but I just love our interactions. We spent some time at the Real Coaches Summit together, and we really had a great time with, Jamie and Dr. Susie Spurlock to name a couple peeps and stuff like that. But thanks for having me on, man. This is gonna be fun.
Of course, man. Don't give it away. I just got Dr. Susie to feel a spot, so I can't give it away.
Nice.
This is going to be on the podcast. Everybody listening, P.S., by the way.
Nice. Well, we'll make sure we shout that out after we're done with this, because that's going to be something that I'm going to tune into.
Yes. He's a few episodes after you, though, so sorry, guys. You're going to have to wait. But
I'm still going to tune in.
Everybody listening will have to wait a little bit, but it's okay. In the meantime, let's pick your brain, Phil. So I know that you come from an athletic background, which I always love because athletes take this stuff so serious, and it's so much better coming from an athletic perspective rather than just being like, well, I like to work out, so I guess I'll be a trainer. But when it comes to the athletic population, you can't screw up. This is injury prevention. This is performance. This is getting kids to the next level. Like, how did you get into all that?
Well, for me, it started, I wanted to be a football coach. Luckily, my football coach at the time was also our strength and conditioning coach, Raul Sanchez, who's still in the game today, still learning, still improving. He took me under his wing and just really showed me the ropes inside the weight room for, X amount of years, and showed me how to develop speed, power, away from lifting weights, and how to transition. Like, we did a lot of plyos. Put it this way, if I would have had recorded our stuff early in the early 2000s, I would have an amazing library right now. I don't. Because of that, but
Joe DeFranco a run for his money.
Oh my God, dude, it's insane! Like the stuff that we have, and there is one person on YouTube that has some like probably 10 or 15 less clips of what we did. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is like gold mine for me. But it started because of that, because of Raw, and it just escalated. I never went to college. Something I've been on a few podcasts, but something I've never said is I didn't go to college, but the head coach at the time, Dave Ramos, he said, if you're not going to go to college, your ass is going to go to coaching clinics. And that's what they're called back then. Everyone knows them as seminars and conferences now, but coaching clinics. So I went to a bunch of coaching clinics at the very start, and that kind of like guided me going forward from there.
Yeah. And in all honesty, like, I look back on college and I'm like, well, that's a giant price tag that I didn't put to use. So, I mean, you probably played it smart, being that you are doing this thing that doesn't really require a college degree, and you can learn so much from so many professionals as long as you listen to the right one. So, I mean, it sounds like
you listen to the right ones.
Yeah, as long as you have a good mentor to like help you sift through the BS, like, you are set to learn a ton.
And again, I was very lucky because Raul, he taught us when I played for him in high school, and then it just continued on. And a lot of the things really didn't change. You're still doing a lot of the plyos and the hopping and the bounding to build speed. You're still doing your flying sprints to build up speed, and you're still doing those things now. Like, I think I saw like a clip of Chris McCaffrey during football season doing speed stuff, or during off season. I'm like, hey, that's how you build speed, and people think it's all these little ladder drills and all this stuff. I'm like, no, that's you're not doing it right, man. You're kind of missing the boat on it. But that's what started it for us, man. It's just I picked his brain and I stayed with him.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I love speed training as an example, because a lot of times on the podcast, we'll talk about like what the right amount of work is rather than doing the most possible. And when it comes to speed work in particular, that couldn't ring more true, because people think, oh, if I just gas myself out and push it to the point where I can't move, I got to get better, right?
Yeah, that is the absolute wrong way to go about it. Like, speed and power training are relatively quick. You're not going to do a whole bunch of it. You kind of stick within like the 3 to 6, 3 to 8 range, probably less than that, 3 to 5, 4 to 3, right? You're not doing a whole bunch of sets, and you're not doing a whole bunch of reps. You want to get it done. You want to have some intent while you're doing these exercises, whether it's bounding, jumping, hopping, throwing, whatever it is. You got to have intent while you're doing it, because you want to apply the force to get the most out of your type 2 recruitment.
Exactly. And when we talk about the general population, I know you and me both know this, but it seems like a lot of people don't really put it into their programs. Is like even the average person, especially the average person, needs power in their workout.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get older, we lose power, we lose strength, but the one that we lose the fastest is the power and speed portion of those muscles. If we're not training it, if we're not giving it a little bit of taste during your workouts, you're going to lose it. So we want to program those at the very beginning of your workout.
Yep.
So you can even use it as a warm up, but for the most part, if you're doing anything speed or power at the very, very beginning of your workouts, type 2 recruitment, like I said earlier, to be putting out. And what I mean by type 2 is you have different type 1 muscle fibers and type 2 muscle fibers. Jeez.
Yeah.
and your
Do
type
we
1
want to go
muscle fibers
deeper
are the
and
ones.
talk about
We probably could.
type 1A, type 1B, and all that stuff, or
We
no?
could. No, I don't think we should
Or
go that deep.
no, that's type 2. See that
Yeah.
I'm out of practice here. This is why
type
the athletic
1, type 2, and then
athletic
type 2A.
populations are different than the Gen Pop. For anybody Gen Pop right now, any normal people, you do not have to worry about fiber type. I'll just tell you that right now.
As long as you're doing your type 1s and your type 2s, like your type 1s are the ones that you can do a lot of things with them within your work sets. Your type 2s are the one that you want to get in fast and explosive out. So if that helps anybody, and we are talking on the how is it, fit and over 40 or fit 40 over? I can never pronounce it.
Fit 40.
There you go.
It's just fit 40, but it's basically fit
Us
over
older
40.
population in general, it's definitely something we need. Whether it's jumping, whether it's throwing, please add it into your programming. It'll be beneficial. And you want to think about it like go over 40 now. So you say 60 or 70 years old, and when we're talking about the loss of power, is like say like you stumble over. You have a dog. You stumble over your dog, and you want to shoot your leg out to stop you from like falling. That's power. That's speed. Moving that foot, that limb that's moving. That's why we're training that, because if we don't have that, that's where the falls come from. That's where the broken hips come from, and ultimately, that's
like
where
when you slip in the shower
life.
and you go to grab something, that's probably the most powerful thing you're going to have to do in your life.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and that's why we train, and we're gonna hammer it into death for the next couple minutes. Is make sure you add it in because it's highly important. And I know you talked about Dr. Gabrielle Line the other day with the walking stuff, but she has a lot of her power and strength stuff for the older population. I believe in her book. I know she talks about it a lot in different interviews and whatnot, but we do want to add that in. So.
Yeah, for anybody who's not familiar with what we're talking about, because this is probably going to come out maybe 4 or 5 weeks after this is probably all passed, because social media is so quick to forget. But basically, just they trashed walking, which I mean, obviously we know is garbage, but I know her message, Gabrielle Lyon, like what she pushes is incredible because you should strive to build muscle, to build power as you age, because that's going to set you up the best. Will walking do that for you? No. But will it provide a ton of other benefits? Yes.
And it's for what are those benefits for the people that are usually stressed out or who don't get enough movement? And and that's usually as us as coaches who work with the general pop, we're probably going to prescribe some more steps at some point. I don't care where, how, what, but get more steps in.
Yeah. I mean, they show that it like plateaus around 8,000-10,000, but like for most people, that's a lot of effort. Like unless you're working on your feet, that's really hard to do. Like for the average person who works at a cubicle or works at a desk at home on the computer, like a little intention goes a long way and you can get to that point, but there's no reason to stress if you can't get over 10K. Because let's remember that 10K a day was a marketing technique. It wasn't because 10K is the holy grail.
Yeah, no, if you're getting, like you said, if you're getting between 7,000 and 8,000 a day, which is still hard, you're going to be okay. And most people think about it as a day. Well, you can even look that further. What if you look at that in a week, though? Like, let's multiply that by the week, and let's see if we can get more steps in throughout the week rather than through the day. So if you only get 5,000 steps on one day, all right, cool. Maybe make it up and get 8,000 on the next day or 9,000, whatever it is.
Now, I wanted to go back to the power discussion because I did want to ask you about. I know people listening are probably like, well, that sounds kind of crazy. I'm not going to be like doing box jumps and like kettlebell swings and throwing medicine balls all over the place, like into the wall. Like, what are some of your favorite ways to program power? If somebody listening is like, I want to do it, I just don't really know how I would do that.
You can do power with pretty much anything. How are you moving weight? What are you moving weight with? Now, again, some of the easiest ways are with the med balls because you don't need a lot of space. Some of the best ways.
Let me just say, listening, for everybody listening right now, we're talking about leather ones that like have a little give to them, not the rubber ones that shoot up and smack you in the face.
Yeah.
Just want to make that real clear.
Yeah, big time. Definitely not the one that bounces. We want the one that kind of stays kind of flush, flat, hard.
Or if you can find a slam ball, those things are perfect.
Oh yeah, those are amazing.
Yeah.
I can start using more of those. I have 3 of them. I don't even use them here. Jeez, thanks for reminding me.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. The let's see. The best, the easiest ways are with the med balls. Older awesome coaches like Coach Mike Boyle really talk about the med balls. A lot of athletic populations use med balls. Some of the best ways, barbells for me. I love barbell stuff. I do a lot of hand clean, a lot of power clean, just explosive work, like such. But you can also use kettlebells. You can also use dumbbells. So if you're saying like if you're doing an overhead press, you just really want to have the weight lighter. Yes, I'm sure most dudes out there over 40 can overhead press 50-pound weight overhead easy. But you want to lighten that to get the effect that we're talking about right now and the speed and the power. So let's go maybe 30, 35. And you really just want to set yourself and just get it up there as hard as you can, bring it really slowly back down, and then repeat that process a couple 6 to 7, 8 reps. No more than 8 reps, because then at that point, you're kind of hitting like the strength range of numbers we like to be in. So we want to stick between 3 and 8. Maybe I like to say 3 and 6.
Yeah, I keep my people 3 to 5. I'm like, listen, I want this powerful. I want it like we're not doing a whole lot of these, so each one is like it better be like your life dependent on it.
Yeah, we say it has to be with intent. It's not a normal rep. This is full go on that rep. That's why I say when you bring it back down slowly, you're kind of thinking about that next one in your head, like, all right, here we go, ready, set, go, boom. Make sure it's powerful.
And if you're not thinking that you're about to like poop yourself or make a weird face, then it's like you're probably not doing it fast enough.
You're not exerting that as much energy as you want to give us the recruitment of what we want and that effect that we want.
Yeah.
So go hard, go fast.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, fair warning, you're going to look like a weirdo in the gym, but you're going to be the most intelligent person in the gym. So feel free to wave that freak flag.
And the funny thing is, it may not seem like a lot of weight, or it may not seem like you're going to be super, super tired after those sets, but the intent's there. Catch your breath and just continue on with what's in your program on that, though. Power and speed, they don't take a long time, but if you're doing it right, it should wear you out. You should be catching your breath like after that first or second set. It's like, oh fuck, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can cut it.
Yep.
You should be able to breathe relatively harder. You should be almost sweating at that point. If not at the beginning of your workout, if you're not already.
Yeah, and one of my favorite ways to do power too is like going like that old school conjugate method where it's like you look at Westside Barbell. For anybody who doesn't know who Louis Simmons is, he's like an OG in the strength training space and the athletic space too.
Yep.
But like doing things with bands or with chains or even just doing lighter weights than what you're going to be doing on your work set and punch, like if you're doing a bench press and you're doing dumbbells and you say you do 50 pounds, do like 20 pounds and punch it up as fast as you can. Just like Phil was talking about, and then lower it nice and slow. Or if you're doing squats, like stand it up out of the hole, not literally jump up, but like stand up as fast as you can out of the squat and do that with just the bar. And that's power training.
Even hopping in one spot is power training. Again, with intent, like bounding, skipping. I don't know if you follow Angus Bradley on Instagram by chance.
Is he the guy out of Ireland or no?
Yeah, I want to say yes because I know he has an accent, but I'm not sure where he's
Olympic lifter or no?
He does do Oli lifts, a lot of Oli lifts, yes.
Okay, I think I've seen his stuff once or twice.
He likes to shake things up and just say, he likes to stir the bee's nest as people do.
Hey, we need people to do that.
Oh, and he does. He really, really does. I mean, I talked about Mike Boyle earlier. This guy makes fun of Mike Boyle all the time, But he's really big, and you can really see his powerlifting and what he does on his hopping and skipping and how much he talks about it. So that's one reference you can go about. Again, I think he does stir the bee's nest a little bit, and he is funny. But there's one reference.
Well, that's one thing you can count on in the strength and conditioning space is guys that want to stick their flag in the ground and prove that they're the top dog. You can guarantee that's going to happen.
Always. And then you're going to find the guys, again, I talk about him a lot because he's been a mentor for me forever. Boyle he'll come back and he'll be like, "Fuck, I was wrong on this. I've
Yeah,
seen the information now. Like these are good. Like I'm implementing this now and I'm doing it now."
yep.
So
And
as long as you have that open mind as a coach, man, you'll be fine.
yeah, and he was honestly one of my big influences too, like learning how to train people, especially the 40 plus population. And hearing a guy that literally has a World Series ring with the Red Sox come out and say, "Yeah, I was wrong on that one. Like wrong on like thinking this or that." It's like, wow, that's a good level of humility to be like, I don't know everything. And there's
Yeah.
so many gurus and experts out there that are like, nope, I've been right for the last 20, 30 years, when you're like, you physically couldn't be.
Yeah, no, and those are the people that you kind of seen they're stuck in their ways. So,
Yeah.
okay, you stay in that world, and I'll kind of continue evolving this way, and I'll continue looking at research that's putting out. And we always say that in the social media world. Well, studies say this, studies say this, but what studies are you talking about? Like most people, these people that we're talking about, the Boyles, and they're actually reading the medical journals that information is being put out and studies are being put out, so they can reference those studies. And instead of just saying studies say, well,
Yeah.
here's the study. This
And
is what I'm talking about.
anybody can Google a study that supports what they're saying. It depends on the
Yeah.
body of evidence, which people don't understand fully. And if you say the body, like research shows, nobody's actually going to take the time to be like, all right, I'm going to look up all 100 of these studies and look and read every single one front to back and see what the consensus is.
And sadly, the moment you open those statements now on one of your Instagram posts or YouTube posts that studies say, I'm probably not going to watch it anymore. Like that's just my personal
Yeah.
opinion. I'm just not going to watch it. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, next.
Yeah.
Like,
And
sorry.
my personal favorite is like when I bring a study, like my girlfriend's a medical doctor and I'll show her a study and she'll be like, this is like pathetic, like not pathetic, but she'll be like, she'll like scoff at it and be like, there's only a sample size of 14 people. And I'm like, well, we don't really have much. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, like every single pharmaceutical medication, like all these studies have like hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people in it. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we really kind of are grasping at strings here.
We really, really are. And like, it's funny. I was talking to Aram the other day. I had him on a little segment that I do on my thing. And when it comes to coaching, give me a coach that has 30 years of experience over anybody else that doesn't have experience, and or over a textbook, and I'm gonna listen to that coach because they have the experience of working with people.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing between someone that's newer and an influencer than someone like Aram who's influential specifically in our industry. The guy is influential on making us change our ways and challenging us, very much like where I come from in the show up fitness world with Chris Hitchko. He's influential on getting us to look at things and challenging us to always challenge the box, think
Yeah.
outside the box and challenge it.
And most of the good coaches that have been around forever that have gotten really good results, they're doing a lot of the right things. Now, usually when we hear some people that are like really well-known coaches pushing stuff, it's usually the BS and it's usually the like 1% of what they do. But the other 99%, if you were to hang out with them in their gym, it's going to be like basic strength training and all these concepts that we understand make a world of difference.
The concepts that we're seeing that they're known for are the ones that they're trying to just be flashy for on Instagram
Yeah.
or whatever, just to be known for something rather than, hey, you're like every one of us, you do all the movement patterns just like us. As long as you hear right, you're going to get results.
How boring would social media be if all of us were saying the exact same thing?
Oh, I know. It would be insane. We would literally be kind of like posting the same thing, just like in different colors. Like, oh, here's the red color, here's the blue color, here's the white color, here's this color. Everything would be the exact same. But luckily, we are all different minds, and we pair exercises differently, and we have our clients do different stuff. It's like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yep.
And then you inquire about that rather than just implement it. It's like, well, why did you do this there? At the end was at the beginning. Where'd you do this at? And figure out why. Go for it.
Yeah, because we all know like what should be achieved in a session, but it's like there's the art piece of like, how do you know how to apply that stuff in a way that one, the clients actually enjoy and want to keep coming back, and two, in a way that gets them the best results if there's any resistance, like anybody's like, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. How do we navigate those waters and create a system where they get so much benefit out of it?
I think I figured that out for you. You create
yeah.
a big sign that says no burpees are done here.
I mean,
That's what
that'll
you
push
do.
business so quick. I was actually just having a conversation again for my girlfriend because she goes to Orange Theory and they are very big on burpees. And I'm like, if at any point they put out a message that said, we are no longer going to be doing burpees, will there be anyone that's going to be like, no, No.
You'd probably have so much more people showing up.
Like,
They'll be like, no burpees? All right, let's go.
yeah, if anything, all of a sudden the classes are going to get packed.
So how do you navigate those with your clients on stuff that they like to do and they don't want to do?
Oh, we're
Exercises, do
flipping the
you know?
tables here.
Yeah, real quick. I had to flip that on you really
Oh,
fast.
how the turntables. I'm sorry, then I got
Oh,
lost.
how do you flip that? How do you get your clients to navigate something that they don't want to do in a session?
Yeah, so one of the big things that I love to do when it comes to the moms over 40, they come from a place where group classes are a big thing and like kind of just go, 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 never rest, sweat up a storm. And we know you need proper rest so you can move more weight or do more repetitions because you're actually refilling your glycogen and your ATP stores, which allows you to put out more effort and get better results. So we tell them to rest a minute or two, and without fail, it's like, I'm not just getting that much out of this. And I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's fair. That's fair. So instead, what we do is we do stretches. So, like, let's say we're doing like squats, for example, and then right after squats, we'll do like a calf raise or some sort of isolation movement for the hammies, the glutes, or quads, whatever. And then that third exercise is going to be a stretch. And it's usually some sort of a hip opener, whether we're stretching the adductors, abductors, or the rec fem or something like that, where we open the hips up in a way where they're getting a little bit of stretch out of it so that they can improve on the squat. So now they're resting, they're getting a bigger range of motion, and they're improving their quality of movement.
So are you saying you're doing a little mobility while you're getting ready to squat? Is that
Yeah.
what you're talking about? Are you speaking my love language to me? Is that what you're doing?
Well, I heard this thing where if you stretch during your workout, you're an idiot. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that.
I'm going down that rabbit hole right now. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, I have this part of my brain that is like, kind of like, I like to push the buttons and kind of say, fuck you once in a while. And it's hard to
Yeah.
turn off sometimes. It really is.
Oh, I like it. I like that. It really is hard to turn it off sometimes because we are who we are and we learn from each other that way. And that's why we're having this because we're so much like-minded. The reason why I said that is because that's pretty much how I program for my clients. If we're doing something in that area, I'm warming up or I'm stretching out something, squatting. I'm going to do some type of Copenhagen plank right before it, maybe in their
Love that.
warm-up to get them ready for the squat pattern. So, well,
That's
thanks
an
for answering my
underrated
question.
that's an underrated exercise right there. I think a lot of people
You,
need more loving on those adductors.
I am such a huge fan of Copenhagen planks. I will literally do it off of every bench, box, med ball that I have possible around. Like again, coaches, we were at the Real Coaches Summit. I went to go do some because I was doing some goblet squats, and I'm like, dang, there's no bench in here. I saw a med ball, so I grabbed the med ball, and I stole that one from Gina Bongiorno. I want to say that. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing her name right. She's a sweetheart out of Atlanta. I saw her do that, and I've interacted with her numerous times. And I'm like, this is sweet. Like I can do this anywhere with this med ball. Thank you for that. And she's been really, really helpful along the way the past couple of years. So that's where I
That's
stole that
awesome.
from.
That's awesome. Because I know the only real like work that I've gotten, and guys, if you hear me say adductor, it's all the like groin muscles, like the stuff inside of your leg. And the only
Mm-hmm.
real way that I've ever really gotten it in the past, because Copenhagen's were always a problem. I always had hip issues when I was in playing football. I would literally stand on the side of my foot and it would click back into my hip. Like I'd feel a pop.
Ooh,
And I would have to do
nice.
that on occasion. So I'm like, there's something off in the hips. Just never got it looked at. But that's basically
And
what a lot of high school
it is
guys go through, where it's like something hurts.
usually a lot of adductor work.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually a lot of adductor work is what gets missed on a lot of athletes or even general population, either whether it's in your assessment or actually working, whether you're not squeezing things, whether you're not Copenhagen planking, something like that. Adductors really tend to get missed on a lot of things.
Hmm.
If you just warm them up, if you just strengthen them a little, you'll see a lot of your when your knee bent, like hip flexion and knee stuff like that, you'll see yourself getting a little bit stronger. So don't neglect those muscles, whoever's listening out there. Brian knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
He's going to do it for a reason. And if he starts adding more Copenhagen planks off med balls, he didn't take that from me at all. And I'm sorry.
yeah. So all the clients listening right now that are going to have Copenhagen planks in their programs, just look at Phil and be like, "It's you. It's all your fault."
That's why we don't like those LA people, the Copenhagen over there.
Yeah, but one of my favorite ways actually to get almost like a lower effect from that, because when it comes to certain exercises, sometimes it's a little bit too much to do the traditional way and we need a regression. And one of the best ones is a traditional side plank, but done in the way that it was intended. Because fun fact for everybody listening right now, when we do side planks and we stack our feet one on top of each other, that was an illustration error. Stuart McGill, who's like one of the guys that basically made all the static planks, all this stuff like very popularized. So if you hate planks, this is the guy to blame. He basically said to the publisher, like, front plank, side plank, hollow holds, this is how they go. And they messed up on the side plank and they put one foot on top of the other when he meant for the top foot to be in front. So you're more stable. It works the adductor muscles when you press your foot, like the inside of your top foot, down into the ground. So that's how
if you can't do that, definitely
do.
regress. It's a lot harder to do a regular side plank, so I would definitely start with what Brian just said and then work your way up.
Yeah.
And then when you're able to do a side plank, then go ahead and like open your leg there and do a little star plank and get more glute med work, which is probably the hardest one to do out of the whole side plank series. But that's kind of like your really advanced level on that. So there's 3 exercises that you can add right there: hard, super hard, and then very hard.
that just reminded me of like one of the most fun things, like being mostly online now. I miss some of the in-person stuff. And one of the best looks that you're ever going to get is when you're doing an exercise like a plank or a side plank, and you're like, wow, you're really good at that. And that person has that glimmer in their eye, like I don't have to do these again. And you're like, I know a way to make that harder. And then their soul is just gone.
That literally just happened like 2 days ago when I had Maria here. She was doing the same thing. They were side flanking, and her partner had a band that's actually broken. And I'm like, all right, well, Maria, you're going to hold this, and you're going to hold it above your head, and don't let her not pull you over. And she looked at us. She's like, okay, cool. That was cool. And I'm like, all right, now your partner, make it harder for her. And she started pulling. She's like, you just see her eyes just get really big. That was hilarious. Yes, that is absolutely one of the best things to do is in person is just seeing that facial expression on something like that. It's like, no, we're going to keep doing that. What do you mean? You're good at that. We're adding more of that. We're going to load it different ways.
And this is why there always has to be that handful of in-person clients. Like, I love when we go to these conferences and people are like, oh, are you like fully online? And I'm like, I never could be. There's like a part of me that's like, I just physically can't be 100%.
The part of me is definitely in person. Like, you get more of the goofiness like I am in person. Like, it's kind of hard for me to do that online. Like, yeah, I could send you a video of being goofy, but off the top of the head, it hits harder when you're in person. It's a lot funnier. And again, I was just talking about Tere and Maria right now, two of my female clients. I'm always laughing with them. We're giggling about something in the session, whether they're talking about how they do things at work or whether I train Maria's husband, Jesse. Whether we always make fun of Jesse. Jesse is like, he's not here. We make fun of Jesse all the time. It's the best thing ever because Jesse's one of my closest friends. So I constantly make fun of him. I actually just trained him right before I jumped on with you. So there's something we always laugh about. And it's definitely who I am. It's definitely finding something to laugh about every day. So
yeah, and this is what people don't realize when you hire a personal trainer. It's like, yeah, you're gonna get a really good education in like how you should be moving, how to execute certain exercises. But at the same time, the hour goes by so fast if you have the right person. Like, it makes the exercise not feel like a chore. It's like you kind of look forward to it because you actually like the person.
Yeah, like especially if you're cueing right and you're finding success, there's nothing hurting you, and you're lifting more and getting stronger. I couldn't agree with you more. There's a magic about having in-person training. It's a little different. You get to know a person more. You get to talk a little more. You get to get more information out. They get to ask you questions. You get to know another person, and you usually end up becoming really good friends, or you know a lot about that person, where they don't let other people in on that side. So you're almost like a therapist, even though you don't have those. You might be, but you don't have those qualities or qualifications for the most part. But you are there to listen to the most part, because a lot of people have stress. They come in, especially us over 40. I'm not quite there yet. I'm 38, but I'm going to get there. For people over 40, we have a lot of stress. Life is changing for us. We don't know how to handle it. Working out is definitely one way to handle it. Find yourself a personal trainer who knows how to push you, who knows how to challenge you in different aspects, not just training with weight, but mentally as well, so you can handle things that are coming to you in life. You'll understand how to handle the moment.
Yeah. And I actually thought of something fun we could do. So I'm thinking, like, in my head, one of the best litmus tests for anybody who's listening right now, where it's like, do you know if you have a good trainer or not, or what to like really look for when you go. One of the best things that I would tell people is like, can you see yourself getting a beer with this person or getting a coffee with this person? And if so, you're probably going in the right direction. But I'm thinking, why don't we go back and forth? Each of us will list like one thing that you should find in a good trainer. We'll just see how far we can take that.
Oh, cool. Let's do that.
All right. So
Fun.
I got the coffee or beer. Like what else do you think? Like if somebody walking in fresh and they're like hoping that they've got a good trainer, what would that person do or say or look like?
If they're reading, if they have a book nearby,
Yep.
constantly learning something, constantly wanting to acquire knowledge of something, whether it's in their field or something that'll make their field better, whether, maybe marketing, maybe writing, whatever it is, something that they want to learn more about. Reading for sure.
Love that. And then my next one would be that they actually greet you and smile, because as like simple as that is, for some reason people just sometimes don't do it. And I know back in the day we were taught the 10-4 rule, where it's like 10 feet away, you acknowledge them with like a nod or like a one of those, and then at 4 feet, verbal acknowledgement, like, hey Susie, hey Sally, like, how are you today? Like if they don't greet you in any way, shape, or form, you could guarantee you're just probably a number in their book.
I'm gonna make fun of that right now. Here's my greeting when you come work out with me: is you get Tyson barking, my dog. So you see him, and the moment I see you, is my 4 is like, hey, how's it going? And then they open up the gate, and he's still kind of like bringing his toys to you. So yes, that is an amazing rule to follow, is the 10-4 rule. Whether like me, I live in the back house, so people do walk here, or sometimes if they're new, I'll meet them in the front. So they kind of get used to parking here. All right, park, and then I'll meet you in like halfway when we're going over there, and it makes it faster. So definitely that. I'll definitely tell you one of mine would be on the aspect of just asking how you feel when your session starts, rather than just jumping into your program right away. That is something you need some information when you're starting your session. Hey, what if you messed up your leg and it doesn't quite hurt, but you're walking with the limp, you can get by it? Well, we can kind of tweak your squat rather than doing a full goblet squat, because it might hurt you a little more, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say another one too is on that first session, some type of an assessment, like some way to know what you can do so that they don't hurt you. Now, some people like going the traditional route and doing the FMS, which is like love it or hate it. Like it's one way to kind of get an idea of how people move. They could give you like really light weights and something that you're very capable of doing and just see how you do the movements. And that's another way too. But I'm sure, Phil, you've got a full-on assessment. Like, what do you do with your people first session?
For a session, for a session they'll go through their movement pattern. But for an assessment, I have a like kind of like a massage table, and I put them down, and I'm checking their main joints. I'm looking at their shoulders and their hips, and I'm taking them through a full-on hip scour and shoulder assessment. I'm checking upward rotation. I'm checking horizontal abduction, horizontal adduction. Looking at the rotator cuffs, do we have any tears? Is it unstable? Within the rotator cuff, I'm looking at like 4 keys, or shoulder health, I should say. I'm looking at between 4 and 5 keys. Rotator cuff stability. I'm looking at a scapular mobility along with scapular control. I'm going to be looking at T-spine mobility, which is a little different. If you can kind of like look over your shoulder, if you're able to drive, look over your shoulder, that's really big.
Those people that like
I'm
hurt
also looking at
reaching in the back seat.
Oh yeah, that's shoulder health right there.
Yep.
You don't have the ability to move there, so we got to figure out why. Another thing that I'm going to look at is if you have serratus involvement, that helps you get above head. Most people forget that muscle. That's also a breathing muscle too, so we got to make sure we're breathing right. It plays with your scapula really well and your rib cage. And then the last thing I'm going to look at is your pelvic. If you have any pelvic, not tilts, but if you're moving through your lumbar area above head, you don't want to be moving through there. So everything needs to be coming from your scapula and your humerus. So that's what I'm looking at, shoulders stuff wise, shoulder health wise. And then hip wise, I'm taking you through a full hip assessment, hip scour. I'm figuring out what type of hip socket you have. If you have a really deep hip socket, or if you have a really shallow hip socket, that's going to tell me if you can deadlift really well, or not well, but what type of deadlifting stance you're going to have, what type of squat stance you're going to have. And then I'm looking at horizontal abduction with your femur on the side, kind of like in a side plank position, seeing if you're able to touch the table or not. So I'm looking at all these things, and I'll be sculpting a program in my head for you while I'm looking at that. So if I need to turn on more glute med for like a step up, if you don't have abduction, if you're not able to move your leg away from your body, that's what we're looking at. Looking at if you can drop your squat in the correct form pattern all the way, almost like people like to say, your butt should touch the grass. Well, some people may not have that ability to because of their anatomy. And this assessment is telling me that. I'm looking at your bone structure, not your muscles or anything. I'm looking at your bones. If your bones allow it, then you should be able to do it if I load you up.
But I thought that
If
everybody
you're not
should
able,
squat a certain way or bench press a certain way. Aren't we all built the same?
oh, well, that's what textbook tell us. And that's why I tend to make fun of textbook trainers who just read a textbook and say, this is how it's done. No, people are different. Sometimes you're going to have you might have one, I'm talking about hips, pelvises right now. You might have one hip socket really deep and you might have one really shallow. So that's going to play with it a little bit. You might have one hip socket that's really wide. You might have one that's really small. So those things are going to affect how you move, how you perform your movement patterns. So I'm looking at those things while you're on the table, and then I'll put you in a position. Can you get into a squat? And then we'll go see if you can get into a squat off the table in, just regular goblet squat or body weight squat.
Yep.
So that's my assessment in a nutshell. I'm also looking at like if you're breathing heavy while you're moving in the workout portion. I've tuned the assessment to the point where I'm also asking you questions before you come in. I'll send you a stress sheet. We talk about how much stress we have. This is a list of about 10 questions, and it's a point system of like 1 or 2, 0, 1 or 2. And at the end of it, we add up your points. If you have 0 through 10, you really don't have stress. If you have 10 through 15, you're stressing out a little bit. And if you have 15 through 20, holy shit, we got some stuff to work on.
Yeah.
Let's even before we start working out, let's figure some stuff out. Let's get you to sleep more. Let's get you to drink some water more. Something is off there. We got to figure that out. Why?
Yeah.
So
you're
that's
saying
part of my assessment.
It's not always the best thing to just jump right into training.
No, I mean, it could be the least thing you need. Like, what if you just need to like walk for the first week or so, just because you're so like in a different zone that we got to bring you back down. Like, it may not be the best thing for you.
Yep.
And it's our job to figure it out. Like, is it body weight stuff? Is it loading in the barbell? Is it dumbbell, kettlebell? Is it cable? Whatever it is, it's our job to find that for you. And that assessment is the most important thing. Find your starting point to get you to point B.
Yep. You just like, in a nutshell, kind of just described like what a cortisol junkie would be. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's like the people that are so high strung all the time, then they work out and they kind of like flux their cortisol for a brief moment, and then they're right back at it. And they're just like 10 out of 10 stress all day, every day. And they only work out for that brief moment of relief.
Yeah. And there's just so much other things you can be doing to bring down your stress.
Yep.
It's how much sleep are you getting? How hydrated are you? What's your diet like? Those things matter. And as we get older, we need to really take a look at that. As we get older, we need more protein. However you're going to get it, you need more protein because it's just a fact of life. It's how our body functions, and you need to get some protein in your body.
Exactly. Nutrition plays such a big role. Now, to continue with the theme of like what to look for in a trainer, I would also say, I guess like one of them would be the frequency at which they're on their phone, because I know that like I've caught myself sometimes because I do a lot of app-based stuff and I'm like putting stuff in and I'm just like, I got to change this up because like, even though I'm technically putting their weights down and stuff, this takes away from the session. And I actually copied Phil a little bit because I saw he does his on his notes instead of like in an actual like Trainerize app like I know he has. So like going into a more like quick way of doing things so you spend less time with your head in your phone and more time with your eyes on the person, that's a huge thing.
Definitely. I figured that out. I was kind of writing it on a whiteboard and then kind of taking a picture, and I didn't like that. So then I'm like, it's just quicker just to type it really fast and then just get back to what they're doing. But you're absolutely right. Being on your phone is one of the big ones. And for those that go to the gym, your trainer should be engaged with you. That's why you hired him. If they're just a counter for you, that's not a sign of a good trainer. If they're on their phone for more than half the session, that's a sign of a shitty trainer. Get away from that dude. They don't care about your success. I think going off of it is off the topic of a good trainer. I guess if they're engaged in the session with you, meaning if they're asking you questions, that's been one of my favorite things that I've really picked up over the last year and a half is asking questions. And I'm not just asking like, how's your day? Yes, that's going to give me information on how your day's going. Absolutely. But I'm making the session fun. And one of the questions that I asked last night on someone that knew was, okay, I don't know anything about you. So if you had like a label across your forehead and you wanted someone to know something about you, what would that label say? You're meeting this person for the first time. And she said, sure enough, I'm in grad school. Perfect. That was beautiful. Congratulations on being in grad school. And that started the conversation off. So that's one of mine. If they're not engaged with your session.
Yeah. And for people listening right now that are like, how would I even like be in that situation where I could tell all this stuff? That's one of the beauties of joining like a commercial gym, for example. You can go at prime time hours and see people being trained, and you can literally just kind of like walk on the treadmill and watch what they're doing and see, are the people in that session actually having a good time? Like, do they look like they're about to die when they walk out? Or are they smiling? Are they happy? Are they sweating? Are they getting high fives? Like, that makes a world of difference. And you can observe that in the gym.
You can just go do some cardio right now and just pay attention to the trainers. And if they're not having these little attributes, then you can tell they're not really engaged with their client. Like, that's just a fact.
Yep.
It's just a fact. Even if you can read their body language, if they're not even engaged by body language wise, you should be able to tell. Like, if they're not even looking at their client, they're wandering off eyes over here somewhere else.
Yep.
You can tell.
Or this is my contribution: no inappropriate touching, because I know that this is unfortunately something that people still have to deal with, and that is like trainers being like a little too handsy. I know me personally, I was never a toucher really. I was more just like, if they can't get it from me saying it, then I'm not explaining it well enough. And it's kind of like a crutch for most trainers that do it, but sometimes people just aren't getting it. You got to move their elbow a little bit out, or like pull their shoulders back a little bit. It's fine, but there's some people that'll like grab ass or like really get up under there, and you're just like, that's not appropriate.
Yeah, not at all. Like, you kind of warn them like, hey, you should be kind of feeling it here, and then you'd be like, hey, I want you to feel it here. I'm gonna put my hand on your back, and then I'll kind of just do like an elbow. I'm like, look, I want you to feel it right here. Like,
or like
I love the right there. I'm not. I love the
karate chop, or like the punch, like where it's like, you're gonna feel my knuckle right here. But any like kind of like grab is like a no.
Yeah, no. It's literally anything away from my hands. I'm elbow. I'm kind of like pointing this right here, whatever it is. That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm like, you should, I'm at the point now where I want to just grab like a pointer stick and be like, right there, like, or even like a laser, like
having
like
the PVC pipe, because I'm like, I might lightsaber you, but at the same time, like, you can push against the PVC pipe or the foam roller or something.
Oh man, dude, having a PVC pipe is so essential. Yep. People don't think what it is, but PVC pipes are awesome. You teach people how to hinge with them. You can warm up with them. You can do a lot of T-spine with them. PVC pipes are awesome. I'm glad
and as a trainer, it's awesome to just hold it on your shoulders and open up your chest, and you're like, this is what I needed.
So here's another, not a pet peeve, but something you want to look for in the trainer is if do they look the part? Yeah. Like, do they actually work out? Like, I've seen, I'm not trying to make fun of people, but there's been a big time overweight trainers who don't even train. Like, they don't even breathe and talk they don't even, preach what they say, like, it's kind of, that's kind of icky.
Because there are people that are really good trainers that are overweight or maybe even obese that have really good stories, but they're training their asses off. Like, one of the people that comes to mind is Chase. That's his last name. Chase Smith, I believe his last name is, but Chasing Chase on Instagram. He's one of the guys I met through NCI. Like, he has an incredible weight loss transformation. Now, he doesn't fit the mold of like super shredded trainer, but at the same time, he's one of the best coaches I've ever talked to. So it really comes down to like, are they actively bettering themselves, or are they just putting a bunch of words out and saying, this is what you should do? I don't, but do this.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you. Again, I'm not trying to make fun of people or anything like that. That's the last thing I'm trying to do. But I tend to look at like PE teachers right now. A lot of them are just teaching it, but they don't engage in the activity to be healthy. Like, they teach it, but they don't actively engage in it.
Or like, for example, a lot of people come across like their doctor, for example, who's overweight, eats like crap, and says, yeah, you got to lose some weight to improve your health. You got to move more, eat less. And it's like, it's kind of like getting dental advice from a dentist with like brown teeth. You're just like, so why should I listen to you?
Okay, so I came after during the Real Coaches Summit, and again, I'll talk about myself a little bit. I came out with the post about talking to your doctor about, it's time to ask your doctor, who are you referring me to as a personal trainer? Because again, as personal trainers, we're the forefront of healthcare right now. We haven't thought about it this way, but it's time to start thinking about it that way.
Because we lighten the load.
We're the ones we're gonna do everything for you. You just show up. That's your job, is to just show up.
Honestly,
the program, the whole progressions,
how great would it be, like, from like the doctor's perspective of like, no longer needing to treat a crap ton of people for type 2 diabetes because they didn't put themselves in that situation through poor lifestyle behaviors, or like these cardiac issues that could have been put off for 20, 30 years if we included some cardio in the beginning, like visceral fat levels going down and things like that. So the only time people actually have to go to the office is when it's something serious. It's not these things that are due to lifestyle.
And those are the easiest ones to correct, are the lifestyle ones. You got to take a look at your lifestyle and be very honest with yourself. And again, this is the importance of having an in-person coach, is they will see rather than just filling out a bunch of stuff. And I'm not trying to talk shit on online people, but online people tend to just, I can fill this out, send my form, I could send it to you, and I can sometimes I can bullshit myself a way out of it, maybe. Numbers will eventually add up at some point, but the glory of an in-person trainer is you will see that off the jump. You're not going to bullshit me. Like, I've seen you from day one. I've seen you from day two. I've seen you from day three. I've seen you get better. I've seen you get worse. I know when you're at your best. I know when you're at your worst. So, like, you can't bullshit me on that at all. So don't bullshit me on that.
And then the other thing, too, with a really good in-person trainer is, like, when we're talking about lifestyle habits, it's more times than not when you do work with a personal trainer in person, you get the lifestyle modifications in like a controllable way where your life starts to improve slowly over time. And you see 6, 9, 12 months down the road, your blood work improves. Like, you lose a ton of inches and you're just like, wow, when did this even happen? When you might not even have been paying attention to it. Now, I know online is a little bit more direct and we're like, all right, we're checking all the numbers. We're going to make sure everything's good to go. And sometimes, depending on how people do it differently, whatever. But the in-person, it almost seems like it's slower in the most beneficial way imaginable, because you're actually learning how to make it a lifestyle.
Delayed gratification, man. We just talked about this the other day on another podcast that I just did. When you, again, I know when you're at your best, when you're at your worst. Those days of you showing up and you just continuing to put those the works in, little by little, you're just putting those little itty bitty pebbles into your stone case, and eventually you're just gonna have this big ass rock that you've been wanting to create. One day it's gonna be like, oh shit, it just happened. Well, it happened because it's the Milo theory. You're going up the hill very slowly, and you're just constantly getting stronger. I just, if people can just grasp what working out can do for you, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whatever you can do it for yourself. Like, there's such a benefit for it. We say it often in the fitness industry, but I don't think we kind of capitalize on it. But working out is the fountain of youth.
Yeah. It's that magic pill that everybody wants.
It really is. It truly is. Working out is the fountain of youth. You want to live longer? Work out, lift weights, eat well. That's the lifestyle of working out. So do those things and you'll get those things. But it's enjoying the journey to get there that it's where people have a hard time doing. So do it at your own pace. Hire yourself a damn good coach. Use the attributes that we've talked about earlier, in the podcast to pick yourself a good coach and find yourself a good coach using that. So go to the gym, hone on those trainers, those textbook trainers. They don't have a good CPT. Get them out of here. We don't want them.
Yep. And I know that, like, obviously we know the ACE certification, NASM, and all that stuff, the baseline certifications don't really teach you a whole lot. What are some of, like, your favorite next level certifications? Or
okay, so I can really nerd out on this part right here. The reason being why is because I'm part of a group, and I will always give them love. Chris Hitchko, I mentioned him earlier. Chris Hitchko is the owner of Show Up Fitness. He wrote a book called How to Be a Successful Personal Trainer. For those that want to be a personal trainer, he has an online internship. In the internship, we teach you anatomy, programming, progressions, nutrition, all the fun stuff. The difference is you have to pass it on a panel, kind of like a Zoom call here, or even in person. But that Zoom call is we're asking you questions on your anatomy stuff. Like, do you really know this, or are you saying it? Can you pronounce it correctly? So it's like 15 minutes. It doesn't take that long, but then we give you a theoretical client. You program for them on the spot within 2 minutes or whatever the case is, and that's how you pass the CPT. Luckily for Chris, and not luckily, but damn, through his hard work, he partnered up with with Lifetime Fitness and with Equinox, two of the bigger gyms in the United States, and they are now accepting his CPT there. So along that line, which I think is the number one, because of you have to pass, in order to be a CPT, you have to pass on that panel. I don't think anybody else does that. That's different in itself. So I think that in itself holds a little bit higher of a classification, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
So
Okay, so
what's the
after
name of that
that,
one?
I don't know. I think maybe like it's Show
Show
Up
Up
Fitness
Fitness.
CPT,
Okay.
and maybe I can get Chris Hitchko on.
Hell
We could
yeah.
chat with you. He could talk about it
Absolutely.
more. He needs to
Because
talk about it more a little bit.
I love the concept
Uh,
because it's almost like defending your thesis when people go for like their PhD. It's like they got to prove to a panel of people that I'm not full of shit and I'm not. But a lot of these like
exactly,
self-taught people that are saying contradictory stuff on social media have never had to do that. They've never been put to the fire and say, okay,
exactly.
defend what you're saying and tell us why. And have a bunch of experts tell them,
And
listen,
that's
you're
what Chris
not
does.
right.
Yes, yes, yes. And again, this is this is along the lines of kinesiology and things of that nature. So if you're not understanding upward rotation, that there's 5 main muscles involved in it, then you're not right. I'm sorry, it's just not
Yeah.
happening. So you also have to go through your movement patterns, and how we teach you. You need to know your movement patterns on how to program them and things like that. So that's the number one. Show Up Fitness, CPT. We do have a seminar coming up at the Lifetime in Sacramento sometime in May. I think it's like the second weekend in May. If anybody's listening and is in the area, please let me know. I'll help you get in. And then look for them in the area in your state, because we will be coming to them. I know they're going to be going out to Jersey. I know they're going to be going to Philadelphia. I know they're going to be going just everywhere there's a Lifetime. They'll be going there. But aside from Show Up Fitness, I also like
Yeah.
John Russins.
PPSC.
I think John
We
Russin is
just had
awesome. Yeah,
Tasha
PPSC is
on the
awesome.
podcast, and Dan. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I think anything that he does is awesome. I like the rep schemes that he has and how you learn stuff. I like how he programs for you. I've never taken the course, but I've
Yeah.
seen what he does, and I've asked him questions from a lot of different
And
people that
with
have taken it.
a
So that
lot
one
and
for
a lot
sure.
of these other ones, you can look people up and like you can go to their databases of certified professionals and be like, is there somebody near me?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When I went to Andrew Coach's event up in Edmonton, Logan Dubé, who is I know she's the director of the PPC, I
Yeah.
believe. Don't quote me on that, but she's a director within John Russin's camp. Um, she was there and gave an amazing talk on how to connect with your clients and things of that nature. So she was a really good resource on the PPPSC side. Again, I'm a big Coach Mike Boyle guy. So if you want to take a look at Mike Boyle's
I think
cert,
his is, what
MSBC,
is it?
take a look at that one.
FCFC or something like that?
I
Functional strength coach.
Something like that. I
Yeah.
don't remember, but his
I'll
cert is
just link
awesome.
all these below. I'll look them up so everybody can just take their pick and be like, all right, is there somebody with this certification in my area? So when you guys are listening, if you're done listening, just go down to the show notes. You can find it.
Definitely. Another one would be the West
Yeah.
Side one. I think they still have a cert. Those are kind of like the main ones. If you want to get into kettlebell stuff, I think Dan John has a cert that you want to get into. I
Yep.
like
And
Dan
there's
John
strong
stuff.
first.
He really understands. Yeah, he teaches you. For those that don't know, Dan John was the one that patented the goblet squat, something I learned in the last 5 years, which is freaking cool because, again, I'm a meathead from back in the day. We weren't doing goblet squats back in the year 2000 when I was in high school. We were all doing barbell back squat. Every single one of us was. In the year 2000, Dan John patented the goblet squat. And from then on forward, the goblet squat's been involved with the fitness industry. And a lot of people have never done a goblet squat. So when we're teaching you as trainers, that's kind of like your first intro to a squat. It is the goblet squat. If you can't do that, then we regress it to maybe a bodyweight squat or a box squat or a TRX squat, whatever it is. But usually the first one is some type of goblet squat.
That's good.
So,
and then also another one is Joe DeFranco has one too. I can't remember the exact name of it, but he runs a really good one that's like a solid foundation for good, like intro for personal trainers.
He's been around for a very long time. I mean, he's trained some of the best in the world, so I would definitely take a look at that. Another one would be, I'm sure they have something would be Renaissance periodization. I believe they have some type of cert.
So one now
they are Dr. Israel. We even got their nutrition book 2.0. Take that with you. If you go to Andrew Coates' event, we got that. So if those that need that, please go to those events. Sometimes you get little freebies. I'm trying to think anybody else. I really haven't looked into it, and I'll tell you why I haven't looked into many of them is when I was gonna be a personal trainer, I went through the show up route because I was gonna go NASM because I'm like that's the gold standard, air quotes, big time on that. NASM stands for National Academy of Shitty Medicine.
Well, fun fact, NASM, ACE, and a lot of these other ones are run by VC firms. They're not even like educational or fitness companies. They're literally people just trying to make money, and they jumped on fitness as a way to do that.
Exactly.
So sorry to cut you off, but go ahead.
Exactly. No, that is exactly what it is. They are marketing companies. You know, they know how to market really well. Oh, you want to take another cert? Oh, well,
Yeah.
here you go. Oh, you want to learn the corrective
That
knife? Oh, here you go. Well, doing a corrective
I
knife is
feel
just getting
so bad
stronger or
when
something.
we
Like
see
you learn how
I
to do
feel so
that, you're
bad when
good.
we see those trainers that we know that have like the alphabet soup next to their name because they took every cert and got sold on it, and we're just like, oh no.
Take what you just said and clip that into the previous couple minutes of the podcast when we're going back and forth on stuff, because that is a pet peeve of mine. When you have like the alphabet soup on your
Yeah.
Instagram handle, fuck, you have no
Yep.
idea what you're talking about. Like there's only a few. Like if you have maybe like the CSE, all right, cool. If you have, I don't know, if you have the Show Up Fitness CPT, cool. Other than that,
Yeah.
nah. You don't need a whole alphabet soup. Are you a trainer? Are you a coach?
Yeah. I
Call
got
it a
made
day.
fun of for putting my CSCS on there because I'm like, hey, that is the hardest I've ever had
Oh,
to study. And I'm like, I'm slapping that on there.
that's a very tough. Yeah, no, that's a tough one, and I'll always follow people that have
Yeah.
a CSCS. Can, as long as you're putting good information out, I'll
Yeah.
follow you.
If
Don't be
if you
putting out
can find if
something
you
kind
can
of goofy.
find not only a trainer with CSCS that's like a personal trainer and not like in the actual like sports training world, and even
Yeah,
physical
yeah,
therapists that have their CSCS, that's usually a really good tell.
definitely. Oh, big time. There was a time when CSCS was kind of like the gold standard, rather than not. I'm not. NASM was never a gold standard for me, but for me, if you had the CSCS, I'm gonna listen to what you say, because that test is very hard, but when I was going through like high school and beginning as a football coach, there weren't many CSCS coaches around at all. Those are the ones that were working with the athletes in the D1 schools and in the pros. So if you had that, fuck, you knew what you were talking about. So there was some
Yeah.
merit to that. If you have your NASM, your ACE, I'm sorry, there's too many of you. I'm not
Yeah.
listening
Like
to
you
you.
get it in a
Like
corrected
you
test box.
no, like you literally it's an open book test that you take. That's the difference between NASM and Show Up Fitness, for instance. Is NASM, you can take an open book, all right, here's the answer here, let me write this down and submit your test. Where Show Up, now I'm taking a Zoom call with 5 other people who are asking me, maybe they might be asking me those questions, they're not, but I have to at least answer them. And again, the panel of experts are telling me, no,
Yeah.
you're wrong, you're full of
And to
shit,
let it
that's wrong. They'll tell you.
Yeah,
That
and to let
carries
everybody
more.
know how the CSCS is, it's like they literally will make you schedule at a testing center that like tests people for civil service jobs and other things like that. So you literally have to lock your shit in the locker. You have to show them your government ID, and they watch you to make sure that you're not cheating. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is legit.
Mm-hmm. And for one, that those that want to take your CSCS, Show Up Fitness does have it's a passing guide. They help you pass it. They'll help you with the live calls to help you study
Yeah,
for that test. So it's definitely something. Rock does a really
yeah.
good job with that.
Not
So
easy.
if anybody that needs that, we help you with that as well. No, it's not, but we'll help you with it. We'll make
Yep,
sure you pass
yep.
that, baby.
Wow. Well, we covered a lot of good stuff, but I I know we're
We did, and for once, this was
yeah,
something
I know
different for
we're
me.
coming up on the hour, and I want to make sure I respect your time. But I got one final question for you because we have a tradition that every guest leaves a question for the next guest
Ooh.
without knowing who they are.
Okay. Before you ask that, I know about this because I started listening to your podcast a lot more. And I was trying to figure out, like, whose question am I gonna
Oh,
get? Like, what are
theirs
they gonna
aren't out
ask
yet.
me? But I couldn't do it. Yeah. Oh, no wonder.
Yeah,
Dang.
I got
Okay,
like
got it,
I'm
got
like
it.
3 weeks in
Okay,
the
go ahead.
bank by now because of Real Coaches Summit. Everybody
Oh,
got
jeez.
on, and now I'm like, wow. I mean, you're probably not coming out for like a month.
Oh, wow.
So
Awesome. That's cool.
yes,
I get to be
yes, get a
staggered.
little
I like it.
downtime to absorb all the fame that's coming your way. Just so you know.
I'm gonna call it fame. Not very much fame, and I'm okay with that. But I do like the
According
questions that
and this
could
is
come.
actually according to the person that's asking the question. They sent me the Chartable link and found out that this is number 130 something in all fitness podcasts in the U.S. So just so you know, you're on a big deal.
Congratulations.
You're a big deal being on this show.
Congratulations on that.
No, the
Oh,
people that
wow. Well,
deserve
look
the
at that. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna
yeah,
put
the
that on
people
my
that deserve
Instagram
the
handle.
credit are the ones listening right now who leave the reviews, who leave the ratings. So to everybody that does that, I love you guys. Thank you so much. But anyway,
Yeah, thank you for supporting Mr. Fitzsimmons. He's an awesome
yes,
individual, so
but
thank you.
that person, Chris Little, is the one that left the question.
I love Chris.
So what his question was, what is the one odd job, not fitness related, that you did that you think contributes the most to your job right now?
It's not even an odd job, but it's one that most people won't even know that I ever did because I don't talk about it at all. I worked with within the district where I coach football at, I worked with special ed children for about 4 years, and I rode on their small bus to help drop them off at school and then pick them up when they were back. I mean, usually I would just drop them off in the morning, and the afternoon person would pick them up. But working with high function autistic children, low function autistic children, and sidebar on that, my brother is an autistic person himself, so having that patience has helped me as a coach. But that would probably be the one job that it's not awkward, but I just don't talk about it at all. People don't ask about it. They know me as an athletic dude, so I tend to go more that route. But that would be the one, is working with special ed, and it brought me so much joy just because how everyone has their own mindset, and special ed people are hilarious because they're just honest as all hell. They don't like something, they're going to tell you. They'll speak their mind. They no filter, and it's usually pretty funny. They're not trying to give you a bad day because they don't know what a bad day is.
It's refreshing to hear, like when you're like, so how do you like this? And they're like, I don't like it at all. And you're like, all right, well, I'd rather that answer than you kiss my ass. So this is great.
And they will tell you exactly like that. I hate this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Okay, then we'll figure it out and we'll get you out of this situation, But, oh man, that brought back a lot of memories. Chris, that was a hell of a question, man. Thank you.
That one.
Make sure I'm going to shoot him a little message.
I'm glad that wasn't for me, because there'd be a long list of former jobs to go through. Credit. I've legit had like 12 or 13 like jobs in my life.
I think we all have. We kind of have to figure out our path and where we want to go, especially if we don't know where we want to go and what we want to do. It takes a little bit of time. It takes some mentor hunting and some skill sets findings to figure out what you want to do. When did you get into coaching?
2015. So like a couple of years out of
15,
college.
okay.
But I think it's important to just keep doing something, because I think that there's a lot of people, at least in our age demographic, I'm sure you saw this too, like mid-20s, like late 20s, like when we were that young, where it's like people are just kind of sitting around doing nothing, like waiting for their passion. But if you don't sit around and you still do stuff just to pay the bills, it usually gets you going in the right direction.
Always having that go-getter mentality. If you don't have that, you're going to find yourself pretty miserable later on in life. Like, you're not always going to live off the same fame you had like 10 years ago. Something evolves.
We're always moving on to the next thing, the better thing, or improving the thing that we're doing so well right now, which is clearly what you're doing. You're mastering your craft. And I know that a lot of people got a lot out of this conversation.
I'm really hoping so. I'm available for any other questions. If I didn't explain anything right and you want to ask me something on the side, please shoot me a message. I have no problem doing that. Email, Instagram, whatever it is. I'm more than happy to connect.
Now, for the people that do want to follow you and catch more of your stuff, where exactly can they find you, so I could slap it in the show notes and they can click on that too?
Sure. My Instagram handle would be Philly, like if you're spelling Philadelphia, PHILLY _2434. I've never said why those numbers are important. Obviously, Philly's my name, but 2434, that's a homage to the last two guys that I coached at my alma mater. They wore those two numbers, James Salazar, number 24, and then Joseph Ortiz at 34. So I kind of pay tribute to them a little bit on that. So that's why it's 24 and 34. And 4 is kind of a big thing in my life. I wore number 4 in high school. So that's a little bit about me there. And then email dominguez.phil@gmail.com. I won't spell that out.
I'll get it.
You have that in the show notes there, but yeah.
We'll be good. Any others?
That's kind of it. I mean, you can find me on YouTube. It's still growing a little bit. I don't really refer people there too much, but usually email and Instagram are the biggest ones.
Well, we're going to grow there the most from this episode here. So if you do nothing else, go to Phil's YouTube channel and hit subscribe. You will learn a lot. And once you're done doing that,
thank you so much.
If at any point during this conversation, during our rambling, and you heard a gem and you're like, wow, that was really good, and my friend or my family member really needs to hear this because they have been struggling with this and won't shut up about it, then go ahead and send them this and be like, hey, Brian and Phil talked about this, and now you can listen to them and cut the crap. All right, just listen to this. So thank you guys ahead of time if you do that. We love you. And thank you, Phil, for hopping on. I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Grateful to know you, man. Grateful to spend time with you. Grateful to see your face. Can't wait till we link up again in person.
Hey, I can't wait either.
Thank you for having me on, dude.
Everybody, thank you for tuning in and staying to the end. Until next time, I'll see you all same time, same place next week. Go kick some ass. I'll see you later.